Goddess by Denise Gwynn, Chapter 63. I forgot something. I forgot something important. Pegasus flew hard through the dawning light when Maddie started with surprise. "Oh no," she cried, "we have to go back." "Why?" "I left the sleeping pills on Willow's bedside table." Lady Venus smiled. "Don't worry. Willow has no further need of those pills. Before too much more time passes, she will throw that bottle away." Maddie stared uncomprehendingly at Lady Venus. "How do you know that?" Lady Venus only gave her a secret smile. "We'll be back at my fountain in another moment," Mary said. "And then I'll return to my pedestal," Victoria said and sighed. "But what about me? What will happen to me? I don't want this night to end. I don't want to return to my old life. I don't want this night to end because when it does, I will die." Lady Venus glanced at Maddie, her brow furrowed. But Maddie turned her head and kept her gaze downcast. It hurt too much to think on. Victoria guided the chariot along the icy currents of air. The goddesses helped Willow Strongfoot to see that she has a gift to offer to the world, a lovely sculpture. But what can I offer? What use am I to anyone? She kept these thoughts to herself, but she knew that Lady Venus heard her. It gave her no comfort. By morning, Lady Venus would be a stone-cold statue again, and Maddie would be left all alone yet again. And then she'd awaken in a hospital bed in the ICU. Or worse, I won't awaken at all. Hot, angry tears welled up in her eyes and stung her cheeks as the cold night air shivered across her face. She'd drowned in the fountain at 4 p.m, 13 hours earlier, and now it was dawn of the next day. While she'd been happily cavorting around with statues and sculptors all night long, her husband, daughter, and son had been keeping vigil at her bedside. Her family had no way of knowing that these last few hours had been some of the most meaningful moments of Maddie's life. She'd known joy as she'd not sensed ever before, not even on her best day when she was young. Her family had struggled through the night, not knowing if she'd emerge from the coma. And then it hit her, the knowledge. I can die now and be at peace. Yes, a human life is short, ridiculously short. And a human life is only a blip on the entire world scale of events and catastrophes and moments of despair and joy. And yet she'd experienced a fine life, even though it ended when she was 57. But 57 wasn't such a terrible age to die. It was better than dying at 17 or within moments of birth. And for some poor souls, that's exactly how long or how short their own lives were. And she'd been well loved. 2 good, decent people had raised her, people who cared for her and nurtured her and wanted only the best for her. She'd led a rich and rewarding life. She'd given birth to 2 beautiful children, and yes, it was sad for her to die at the age of 57, and yet, when her death notice appeared in the newspaper, a person would read the obituary and say, "Oh, here's a woman who died at the age of 57. That's young to die, isn't it?" But it wasn't too young. She'd achieved a lot in her 57 years. She'd hoped for many, many more to follow because she hadn't yet accomplished everything she'd wanted to achieve in her life. And yet, it was enough, wasn't it? Wasn't it enough? For sure it was. Maddie's unfulfilled dream that she'd carried in her heart for many years of becoming a successful published writer. She ought to have been happy just to write. But Maddie wanted to be a successful writer too. She'd written many novels, many stories, many books, and they were all available online. And yet nobody knew of her, and she felt such a failure. And now she was done. Nobody in the world will ever know that I helped save Willow Strongfoot's life. I have fulfilled my earthly purpose, and nobody will know my name. And yet, who really remembers us after we've died except those who loved us? I can die now and ease my family's suffering. I only regret, oh, what's the use? I regret everything. She stopped thinking her thoughts and gazed up at Lady Venus's regal face. Lady Venus stared straight ahead, her gaze impassive. She did not utter a single word of comfort.